Playing a little rock for Steve Robertson. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Your SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Mississippi's College Town. Starkville, Mississippi just added another flight to the Golden Triangle. 12 minutes from campus. You can fly direct from Dallas, Fort Worth. Any day of the week, baby. And twice a day, Atlanta. 12 minutes from the MSU campus. I have flown in and out of GTR. It is fabulous because it's a small airport. It's great. Big deal to land that. Dallas, Fort Worth, direct flight into Starkville, Mississippi, running at 85% occupancy since April. And then you got 2 Atlanta flights. They're adding a third. I don't know if they've added it yet, but they're adding a third Atlanta flight because of the university and the research and everything else and the huge economic boom in the area. But flights in and out, Delta and American, that's beautiful. Also, Two Brothers wants to see you this fall. Upstairs, downstairs, balcony, whatever. It's going to be a ton of fun, great experience, music, food. And Older Brother Bistro, their new concept, which is right beside it, with the Reuben and Muffaletta and all kinds of good. Oh, the Lox Bagel, all at Two Brothers. Well, all at Older Brother Bistro. And then Two Brothers has the wings and street tacos. So here we go. There will not be a game there this weekend, as you know, but there will be next weekend with Arizona State and Dilly, Kenny Dillingham, and Sam Levitt coming in to Starkville. So we welcome in genespage.com, 247 Sports, the Boneyard Podcast. Steve Robertson joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. So you're going down to your neighborhood as far as Columbia and Hattiesburg for the weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, it's we're going to give fair warning, the boys back, But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I love living up here, but it's always nice to get back. And growing up down there, I got a lot of friends, of course, that it goes. I mean, everybody wants you to come by and see their tailgate. It's a work day for us, but we'll try to get out there and see a few people after it's over.
Okay. Do you have the dogs by 50, or what's up? What's happening?
Now, I'm not going to be quite that optimistic. I do think State wins this game with some margin. I think it'll probably be a game for, maybe a half, quarter and a half. But, yeah, I just think the depth of what State's going to be bringing on the offensive line and with that running back room, I think it's going to be difficult for Southern Miss to hold up. But, State can't go out there and shoot themselves in the foot. I think Braylon's a really good quarterback. I watched him extensively yesterday, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of RPO stuff. They're going to try to stress the defense and make you defend every blade of grass. And, he's got 5 of his receivers from Marshall that made the trip with him. So there's going to be some continuity there. And, again, I want to reiterate, we said this on the show, and people, I don't know what it is with these walk-on media types. They don't do any research. They just go out there and just start running their mouth. But I watched this thing earlier. They didn't bring any offensive linemen from Marshall. I don't know where that's. I know we can all read. We have access to Al Gore's internet, and we all get to see the same thing. But for some reason, some people just keep missing with that sort of stuff. So this is not Marshall 2.0. They have 19 transfers from Marshall. A couple of those guys that didn't play last year. They got a handful of guys that haven't had any college production yet. Yeah, they got some dudes that can play, but anybody expecting this to basically be the Marshall team of last year has deluded themselves.
Your expectations is that Mississippi State should dominate in the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah, and I think it may take a quarter or two to kind of get that going, just because of the fact. I mean, you got so many new faces on both sides of the line of scrimmage for both teams. So there's going to be an adjustment before everybody kind of settles in and plays football. And I think if you're Southern Miss, the thing you've got to do is avoid State getting separation early in this ball game. And if you're Levy, that's exactly what you want. You want to be able to go out there and start quick, and then be able to kind of let Davin Boots and Fluff Bothwell and those guys just kind of get you where you want to go. I just, we talk about the average weight of the State offensive line last year, I think was 311. It's up to 325 this year. So it's going to be a bigger, more physical group. And I think it's going to be difficult for Southern Miss's defensive front to hold up. And they've got some dudes, too, on that front line. They got some guys that came in from West Virginia and other places like that. So they've got some Power 5 bodies, but they don't have much behind them. And if this game turns into a situation where State's able to play ahead with a lead and just kind of run the football with that backfield, I think it's a game that could get away from them.
Okay. All right, so most improved unit. I mean, we're going to find out in the first few games, but this is what we do. We speculate here. Most improved unit, defensive line, offensive line, running back room, something else. Which way are you going, Steve?
Well, I'm going to go defensive line, and mainly because those guys have been here through spring, right? I mean, they've had the opportunity, to kind of understand what David Turner and Vincent Dancy wanted to do, what Coleman Hutzler, Mike McIntyre, those guys want to do. So they've had the benefit of working together all through spring and summer and into fall camp. Offensive line, you got some talent, you got some bodies there, and you return, some guys with multiple snaps from last year's team. So there wasn't quite the overhaul needed on the O-line there was on a D-line, but you got some guys like Zach Owens, a guy that's expected to play your right guard that just got here in June. So I think that group will be okay. And, of course, the running back room basically returns intact, where basically you traded out Kevon Lee for Fluff Bothwell, which is a trade you'll make 365 days a year. But, I think all three of those units will be improved, but I think the biggest improvement is going to be on the defensive line because, number one, you've got size and strength and now some experience where last year you didn't have much of any of that.
Steve Robertson, Gene's Page 247 Sports. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. I'm told that Paul Rhodes will be on the sideline and Mike McIntyre will be in the booth. Is that what you've heard, or did I get the wrong information?
I've heard that. I haven't really chased it to confirm it yet. I had somebody else ask me down on the board yesterday, and I'm trying to get some information on that. But yeah, I think that's really the case. I think McIntyre will be kind of the eyes in the sky, and Rhodes will be down there kind of assisting with some adjustments.
Okay. All right. So, and how we're still trying to figure out, do you think exactly what the roles are of Paul Rhodes and Mike McIntyre, the two defensive analysts?
Yeah, well, that's basically it. I mean, they're going to be analysts and kind of assisting, and they work on self-scouting, they work on game planning. There's a lot of things that they're going to do, that maybe isn't so much hands-on. They're going to be hands-on, but there's a lot of things they can do to kind of prepare us, and I think that's one of the big things when you look at what Jeff Lebby did the offseason, you want to bring Coleman Hutzler back, I get it, but you can't just run it back with what you had and expect to get better results, right? So you upgrade your roster, you bring in Vincent Dancy, you bring in Rhodes and McIntyre. And so they're not just bringing those guys in to hand them an official issue Adidas polo shirt. I mean, those guys are going to have responsibilities to get this thing turned around. And, of course, now with the NCAA rules that, analysts are basically coaches, So, yeah, they're going to be doing some coaching. It's not going to be like they're just kind of sitting around
right.
and, working through Pro Football Focus's numbers.
Right.
They're going to be very much involved.
What about who do you think, if Mississippi State is able to pull away, or if there's situations that Lebby and them have come up with some situational offense that they want to play another quarterback, do you think it's going to be Kamario Taylor, the super stud out of Knoxville, or Croman Hawk, the transfer out of Florida State?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's not one that I really think I can answer yet. But I hope the game itself allows for that, right? I mean, you hope that you're in a situation where you can get some separation late, and maybe give both of those guys a series. But I don't know that I would run Kamario out there just to go hand the football off. You know what I'm saying? I mean, especially with what you've got ahead of you, you get the Alcorn State game in Northern Illinois, and you'd like, if he's going to be able to have a significant role this year, even in a red zone capacity, if you're not going to redshirt him, I think you got to play him and just kind of let him go. I mean, you sign players to play them these days. But yeah, I think I would probably, in this game, maybe first game jitters type stuff, I'd probably go with Croman Hawk. He's already got some college level experience.
Okay. All right. Wide receivers. Kevin Coleman. I mean, don't you think he's the most talented guy they've had since Molds? He transferred out, or one of them. And, if Justin Jenkins doesn't tear up his knee, who knows? And he was still good. How would you frame up the wide receiver talent there?
Well, I would say De'Runnya Wilson and Fred Ross are pretty good. You've had some guys here, and Bump himself was really good. But as far as game changers, you hadn't really had anybody like Molds, and I don't know if you ever will. But yeah, I like the group, and everybody on campus tells me it's a deeper group than last year. Last year, at this point last year, we didn't know what Mario Craver was going to do, and I don't know that he did enough. But Kevin Coleman obviously had an elite season for Mississippi State on a really, really bad team. That's difficult to do, but there wasn't a lot of depth around them. Akari was a guy that was kind of banged up, and there were some high expectations for him. And this group, I'm told, is going to be much deeper. They're going to be more guys in the rotation, which will enable those guys to be fresh. But yeah, I'm interested to see what Brennan Thompson and Anthony Evans do. Those are two guys that Jeff Lebby is significantly spoke about throughout spring and camp. And these are guys that he's expected them to have great years. And, Bump said himself, that even though Kevin Coleman left, the production for that position doesn't leave because it's such a significant part of the offense. There's a lot of stuff dialed up for that particular receiver spot. So Jeff Lebby knew how to use Kevin Coleman. And if you go back and look at what Coleman did in his first couple of years in the college level, he didn't do much at all. Then he comes to Mississippi State and things explode, and he gets a chance to go back home. And I kind of get that. And he and Luther were not exactly the best of friends, so there was no risk of him going there the first time. Well, now that Luther's gone, he's back home in Missouri, and he's a St. Louis kid. But at the end of the day, I think you got to give Jeff Lebby and Chad Bumpus for getting the most out of a guy that had a ton of potential but didn't have much production. And I think, if anything, that gives you a little vote of confidence and think, hey, if he could do that for Kevin Coleman, he could probably do it for Anthony Evans and Brennan Thompson too.
Okay. You've got to improve under the headsets and on the field. So, and there's a lot on the line for the staff. I've said they have to win 5 games or there'll be a change. Some people can agree or disagree, whatever. But, so, I mean, are you looking at how big of a jump? Are you expecting a bigger jump as far as talent on the field or with the headsets, Steve?
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, you're going to need improvement on both sides, but players have to make plays. I mean, obviously coaches have got to put you in a position to be successful, but these guys have been playing football their whole lives. And so, you do your best to give them the game plan and teach them the techniques they need to get loose and make plays, but it's up to them at the end of the day. Players have to go make plays. And there are sometimes, you have players that kind of exceed their coaching, right? I mean, you have some guys that you're just kind of in their way, right? I mean, we talked about Eric Molds and people like that. I mean, sometimes you just got to let guys get play, and I think sometimes you just simplify things and let their athleticism take over. But, you're not going to coach your way out of this. You got to game plan your way into it and have guys go make plays.
Okay. The weakest room or unit on the field is cornerbacks. Is that right, Steve? Or least talented?
I honestly, I think I may go tight end.
Okay.
And I think that's just because there's so many unknowns, right, with them. I mean, I think Kelly Jones is going to be good. I'm interested to see what happens on the other side. Is it Diego Brumfield? I think he's probably a G5 guy. And you got Jed Jefferson, a guy that's basically a converted quarterback that learned to play corner in JUCO, and so I think, there's some concern there at corner, but I'm probably most concerned about that tight end room. And I know Jeff wants to use the tight end a lot more, and you go out and you go get, Sam West and you go get Max, but, Max is basically a blocking tight end and Sam got one career catch, and so
Good
I
hell.
That's I probably go to and say, what, this is the room. Like if Seydu went down, right, and God forbid, right, and I think Seydu's still got more in the tank. I think he can be a better player, but there's just not much depth behind him. I mean,
Oh,
there
God.
really isn't.
Okay, because I think Sadhu's borderline. I mean, I think he's probably more G5 than Power 4. So that's interesting right there that you point that out. I agree with you that Levy wants to use that position. I thought that they would have maybe done a little bit better in the portal, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We'll see. And so I was told, I thought Mac, for our listeners, Mike McIntyre is a former head coach at Colorado and San Jose State. He actually won at both those places. And then he's been an assistant under Parcells with the Cowboys, Cutcliffe at Ole Miss and Duke. Well respected. Rhodes, former Iowa State head coach, and been a DC here and there. But so I thought Mac would be coaching DBs because that's what he did a lot of when he wasn't coordinating or head coaching. But somebody told me over the weekend that Rhodes was working with the DBs and Mac was working with another group. What have you heard as far as, I know they're helping with the defense overall, but specifically positions, have you heard which ones they're focusing on, Steve?
Yeah. In practice that we've been able to observe, and there hadn't been a whole lot of it. I mean, you've seen more Rhodes working with the DBs, the safeties, corners. I mean, basically the secondary.
Okay.
And I've seen Matt work with backers, and then also too kind of work with the edge guys. I mean, Dancy's kind of running that group, but you've seen there's a lot of rotation, right? And I don't think that McIntyre is like necessarily confined to one group. I think it's just one of those situations where if there's something that needs to be addressed, then he has the autonomy, I think, in some respects, to go do that.
Okay.
I think it's Hutzler's defense, right? But those guys are there to ensure that he is going to be successful. And, I mean, I can tell you, we go out there to practice and we're not out there long, but, it's organized. I mean, it's not a situation where guys are, you say, okay, let's take a 5-minute water break and turns into 20 minutes.
Oh, it's not Joe Moorhead's practices. Okay, good.
No, it's not like that at all. It's very regimented. And when the period ends and the horn sounds, everybody goes to the next thing and they run to that. And I mean, there's no waste of time in practice. That's one thing I'll say. And there wasn't a lot of it last year, but there just seems to be more sense of urgency this year.
Yeah, I bet. All right. What else all right. So Huff, you mentioned the Marshall, they've got a playmaker at quarterback. They didn't bring any offensive linemen from Marshall, bunch of skill dudes. Mississippi State should be physically superior and all that, but you still got to play it out. Have you heard anything like without knowing a lot about what they are with 60 new players at Southern, outside of, they've got a playmaker at quarterback. Have you heard anything else through the grapevine of where they think they may be pretty good, Steve, down in Hattiesburg?
Well, they like their running back room, and they should. I mean, you got a couple of former SEC guys back there, but, I think Jeff Pittman is going to be RB1 when this thing shakes loose, and I like Jeff. And, obviously things didn't work out, and he had to leave Mississippi State. But he's a guy from Taylorsville and very talented guy. And in that league, I think he can be a difference maker for them. The issue with them is going to be that offensive line group. That offensive line is really, really, really interesting. And even this week, they've been talking about, we flipped some guys from one side to the other, kind of getting them comfortable. If you're doing that 10 days before a game, you're not in good shape offensive line wise. When you've had the benefit of spring and summer workouts and the beginning of fall camp, and then 2 weeks before the game, you're having to experiment moving this guy from guard to tackle, this guy from right to left. You're not in a good place. And I think that's going to be a real challenge for Southern Miss until they get things settled. And I think once they get into their league and get a couple of games under their belt, they'll be in better shape. But, the portal haul of the offensive line was a lot more of what they had rather than necessarily improvement. They went out and got 10 bodies, and 3 of them from the FCS and 2 of them Power 4 guys that hadn't played much at all. And so you're kind of trying to rebuild an offensive line that doesn't have much in the way of returners, and then you go out and get guys that are more in tune with what you had last year. That's going to be a real issue, I think, for them, not just this weekend, but in weekends to come until they find the rotation of maybe 6 or 7 guys they can be comfortable with.
All right, what you're laying out to me tells me if Mississippi State has done what they're supposed to do as far as the players and the coaches, They should be able to dominate running the football and stopping the run. Is that how you see it, Steve?
Yeah, that's how I see it. I think the X factor in all this is Braylon, and he's listen. He's not Cam Newton, right?
Right.
But this guy's capable of improvising, and that's what watching that Louisiana Lafayette game yesterday. It's one thing that I noticed is like when things break down, he's not a guy that's going to hesitate, right? Either he will get outside the pocket, have his receiver work back to him. He doesn't have the biggest arm, but he is the guy that runs the ball well and I think executes that RPO really at a high level. And so that's really the issue there is you got to be able to contain him, make him be a quarterback, and you can't turn football over. And I think if you can do those things, if you can kind of manage him a little bit, you're not going to stop him. But if you can manage him a little bit, not turn the football over, State should cover this game and really not have much anxiety in the fourth quarter.
All right, so Steve Robertson's saying bet the farm on the dogs. What's the line
Jackson
now?
Already did.
Yeah, I'm sure Jackson already parlayed it 14 different ways. It went down.
Is it back up to 13?
Yeah. So it went down to 10.5, and then I pull it up yesterday, and it was back up to 13.5. What the hell is going on, Steve?
Well, I mean, come on. What's interesting to me, and I pointed this out on my show, it's interesting when it dropped to 10.5. All of a sudden, that was news around our state. But now that it's back up, nobody wants to talk about it.
True.
So either you don't know how lines work, or you didn't know what you were talking about in the first place, or maybe perhaps you have an inherent bias. But the reality of it is, it's like we try to make news whenever there's no news, and that's what we do in Mississippi. So
61.5 is the total. I don't think Southern Miss is going to score a lot of points. Well, they shouldn't score a lot of points, even with what Steve is saying about Braylon Braxton. And he's right. He's talented. He went 8-0 as a starter last year at Marshall and 19 TDs and 2 picks. So the kid can ball out, but still. All right. I know you're taking Hattiesburg by storm, and I'm sure you'll be at Crescent City Grill or Ed's Burger Joint or both or the Midtowner. So enjoy your trip. I'll be down there too. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Steve.
See you, bud.
GenesPage.com 247 Sports. We'll be live from Bocoma Casino and their brand new sports book in Laurel Friday. So we'll be in studio tomorrow and then live there on Friday. Looking forward to that. Mississippi State's going to play on Hardy Street in the Rock on Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Can't believe they scheduled this game, but they are going to do it. People are excited about it. So are we.
Say, kids, what time is it?
It's 9 a.m. and this ain't okay show. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds.
All aboard!
As Mississippi's #1 morning show rolls on the Zone 105.9 and online at thezone1059.com.
Oh, let's do this thing. We are the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Ooh. Whoa.
A guy named Sliced Bread.
And we're brought to you by Fowler GMC, locally owned Pearl Brandon. Fowler GMC for your next GMC Sierra truck or GMC Yukon, pre-owned or new. FowlerGMC.com if you're in the market for a trade or pre-owned or new. And Fowler is FOWLER. FowlerGMC.com. GMC trucks, GMC Yukons, among other makes and models. You just need to go to the website, FowlerGMC.com. And they're crushing it. Locally owned GMC Sierra trucks and Yukons, FowlerGMC.com. The Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Also, a shout out to one of Jackson Meadows' favorite places, the station in Fondren. So at the station in Fondren, first of all, it's a super cool place. They've got a big green space in the back, okay, with a screen that is huge. I don't know what it is, 20 yards wide by, 10 yards, whatever. And I did a March Madness show from the stage. It's a stage with a huge screen, which they play March Madness and Augusta and the Masters and college football and NFL and so on. They have unbelievable bucket beer specials, Michelob Ultra, Bud Light, so on, this fall. And their pizza's fabulous. It's excellent. They've got other things on the menu that are wonderful right there in Fondren, right by Highball Lanes. It's the same owner. They call it the block, same ownership group. Okay, so the station, beer specials, bucket specials from Ultra and Bud Light, green space. You can eat outside. You can play. You've got cornhole. You got all sorts of things. So they got the cool turf out there. The station in Fondren. Wonderful place to watch ball, smash pizza, and drink ice cold Michelob Ultra. Please drink responsibly. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Let's see. We got a text on the Golden Moon Casino text line. I need to talk about the giveaway again, don't I? Okay. But first, we have a listener that says, "Morning, fellas. I was listening earlier on the way into work this morning when Bo was talking about those good wines. I remember Carter Cellars, but could remember the other two. Any chance y'all could let me know those others you mentioned?" Oh, God, I don't even remember what I said. Isn't that funny? People will tell me, "Well, do you remember what you said in June?" I'm like, hell, I don't remember what I said in the last segment. But, let me think about that Carter Cellars is amazing wine. Mark Carter is a rock star. I was fortunate enough. There's a group here that is like high-level wine aficionados, and every now and then they let me hang out with them. They had Mark Carter come into town a couple months ago. Jackson and I.
It's cool.
He's a super cool guy. He is not don't think wine snob with your pinky out. Okay? All right. This guy is a dude.
He was cool.
Now, I don't remember how many 99-point wines he's had. Like 100?
Yeah.
It was something ridiculous. And so my buddy Alan opened up a bottle of Carter Cellars wine a couple months ago for us. fabulous. And Mark comes into town. Well, we got him up here after the show one day, and he was kind enough to come in, and we did a 20-minute hit with him. Just his story. His story is incredible. I mean, he's looked at like a Tom Brady or a Patrick Mahomes or a Nick Saban in the wine world. Well, Mark Carter with Carter Cellars, and if you find his wine, like Philip M's has it, I'm confident Scott has it at Kessler and other places. I'm sure BR Prime, some other spots around the state. But as Jackson knows, Mark Carter with Carter Cellars Wine, who's like, all you have to do is go look at Wine Spectator and he's all over it. He got in the bourbon business. And so we tried a couple of Elijah Craig barrel picks. One of them was from Lincoln Road in Hattiesburg, which Jamie's going to have a big weekend and big football season. Jamie Ferris, owner of Lincoln Road Wine and Spirit Store. I had some of that. Well, he went crazy over the bourbon that we had, and he knows good bourbon and good wine. Well, he spends some time out in Napa and sometimes in Louisville, Kentucky, because he just kind of got in the bourbon business almost as a hobby. I don't even think his bourbon goes to market. I think it gets sold prior to. And when I went to Louisville, Kentucky on my Elijah Craig trip a couple of weeks ago, he told me to call him when I came up there. And so we got in touch, and I went to his private club. He's got a building he either bought or leased. I don't think I asked him. And it was the first day I got there. I got there a day or two before the guys came in to do the Elijah Craig barrel pick, which will be at Briarwood in a couple months. And he said, come over to my club. Well, it's a private bourbon club. It is in a beautiful building. Think George Street Grocery. Think like Spring Street Cigars in Starkville, where it's an older building, brick building, beautiful. And got a little bit of a New Orleans vibe too. Downtown Louisville, not far from the Louisville Cardinal Arena. And you walk in, it's kind of you go in and you're thinking, what is this? And then you go up the stairs and it's a beautiful room. He's got lockers for people who pay monthly or yearly. And they sold out so quick because of his reputation that they're taking the third floor as part of his. But it's not pretentious. It's not stuff. I mean, this dude is a good dude. So we sit down with two of his employees, but partners, and we try some of his bourbon that were, that was awesome. So I had a great time. I think I mentioned Numantia.
Yeah, that's
earlier.
what it was. That's what it was.
So Nathan McCarty put me on Numantia. It's a Spanish Grenache. It's a wonderful wine. The little brother is Termes, which is another wonderful wine. I mentioned that Philip M's has a very old vintage, 30 years maybe more, on their wine list. That's why they're recognized by Wine Spectator, Philip M's wine list on the property of Pearl River Resort. But check that out if you get a chance. He's a super guy. And we podcast the interview. You could go back and Spotify and search through it.
Actually brought it up while I was on the plane.
Did you?
Yep, I was showing the wine guy from Sonoma.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really
well,
cool.
He knew who Mark Carter was.
Knew he was.
Because he's like Michael Jordan.
That's right.
Of the wine industry. And there's a bunch of, there's more than, there's not a bunch, but there's more than one, but he would be in the top 1% of winemakers.
Right.
Jackson is busting out now that he made the trip out to San Francisco and wine country this past week or last week. He's busting out of his barefoot stage, and he's now getting into some real wine. No more wine on the rocks with a splash of Sprite for Jackson Meadows.
Nope.
This guy is drinking wine out of Riedel glasses, or at least some kind of maybe stemless wine glass.
Locked in.
Yeah. Which I've got a bunch of. Do you have many? I've got a bunch of wine glasses here.
I got like 3.
You need to take some.
I probably should.
Okay. Mike Detillier at 9:30. All right. Morning, fellas. Ladies. I'm your host, Bo Bounds. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
Just trying to find some recruits.
Oh, the show is brought to you by Fuse.cloud. That's right. We are super, super excited to have Fuse.cloud on the show. What an awesome Mississippi company who does, they do business all over the country, like so many of our companies that we are partnered with. And most businesses wait until something breaks to fix their tech. But that downtime costs you money. Fuse.cloud flips the script. Their managed IT services are proactive, fixing problems before they hit, monitoring your systems 24/7, backing up your files, and keeping your team secure. Fuse.cloud, located right here in Jackson, Mississippi, FUSE. Fuse.cloud. The best offense is a strong defense, and Fuse.cloud has your back with seamless technology solutions. Managed IT, voice, and internet services. Keep Mississippi businesses secure. Fuse, Fuse, Fuse.cloud. Check them out today. Keep your business running without a hitch. Powered by Fuse.cloud, Fuse. We're going to have Ed Werder on Thursdays at 8:30. 25 years plus. No. Well, he started covering the Cowboys in 89. Jerry, Steven, Irvin, Aikman, Emmett. He's just a rock star NFL Cowboys insider. Ed Werder will join us throughout the season, 8:30 on Thursday. Steve Palazzolo needed to move to Friday. And then we got Fat Jack Jackson. How about that? Fat Jack Ross will join us. Handicapper that we had on last year that was awesome, very entertaining.
Yes, lively.
He does his show. He flies from L.A. to Vegas on Thursday, Friday to do shows. So we'll drop Fat Jack Ross at the end of the show on Friday at most of the time at 9:30. So Tom Luganbill, 9:30 on Monday. We'll sometimes we'll have another guest. Mike Detillier, even though he's coming up at 9:30 today, he'll be 8:30 on Tuesdays. Bartu, we're going to interview Bartu after the show, so that'll be on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and we'll play that again, but both live and on the podcast. He'll be on Wednesdays, and then I told you Ed Werder Thursdays, and Steve Palazzolo, who can go college and pro. He shows Check the Mic, had the NFL Podcast of the Year. He'll be on Fridays at 8:30, and then Fat Jack Ross on Friday at 9:30. And then we'll have some others, Steve Robertson, Michael Katz, and Cole Thompson, and some other dudes. I think that's a good
lineup.
It's a good lineup, and we'll throw some others in there.
Yeah, Brad Edwards.
Yes, we talked about that yesterday. Brad Edwards will join us throughout the year. We need to get him on. This guy says, good morning. What is this? Oh, my gosh. He's got Mark Carter's bourbon, Old Carter.
Nice.
That's incredible.
That's cool.
I just had some Old Carter bourbon on my Elijah Craig trip with Mark Carter. So this guy, who is this dude? Kenneth. I need to get to know this guy. He's listening from Grand Forks, North Dakota. It's 42 degrees. Just heard you talking about Mark Carter on the show. Was fortunate enough to snag his bottle for my birthday in January of 24. Walked into a bar in South Louisiana, asked the bartender if it was for sale, and almost dropped to the ground when she said yes. Wow. He said, this is definitely a unicorn bottle. And I thought I hit the lottery when I walked out the door. Football season getting ready to kick into high gear. Enjoying the show. Thanks, Kenneth. He's in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Love it.
A driver.
Yeah.
Big driver.
Oh my gosh. This is great. Hey, we're giving away what? That bottle?
It's just I'm looking back at his past text. They're pretty good, and my computer just shut down as I was looking at those.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't have those anymore. Well, there's one about Bear Bryant in there, and that goes pretty far back. He's pretty cool. Looks like he's been a Bama fan for about 50 years.
So, currently driving through Burton, North Dakota, en route to Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Boy, driving.
Okay, I'm an OTR truck driver from Canton, Mississippi. Okay, that's awesome, man. Thanks for hanging out with us and listening to the show. We love you, bud.
Streaming it.
And you're streaming the show. That Old Carter bourbon is delicious. I thought it was great. Really, it's one of those that you really can't get. It's allocated, and you're just good luck. But hey, we're giving away a night at the Golden Moon Casino Hotel. 2 rounds of golf to Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, and a gift certificate to Philip M's. How do you enter to win? On the text line, 601-885-3776. We're doing an out-of-bounds roll call. So I'd like to know, are you listening on 105.9 The Zone or streaming the show? Where are you listening from? And are you attending a college football game this year? I mean, I guess we could throw in NFL. No, we're going to stay with college. Are you attending a college game? We'll do NFL on another out-of-bounds roll call. And we're about to sell the out-of-bounds roll call sponsorship. So we're going to do we do one every day. We talked to one potential client that said they may want more than one. There's only 5. It's unbelievable brand exposure and call to action for your company. So if you're interested, the text line is 601-885-3776. Morning drive for the state of Mississippi, the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Every single week, according to Nielsen's ratings, 92% of the country listens to radio. And sports talk radio is vertical, especially when done well and right. And we like to do it that way. So, boom, Out of Bounds roll call. That's beachfront real estate. Yep. And they're going to go fast. We need to lock this in. And if somebody wants 3 of them a week, giddy up. If you want 1, great. And they'll be gone. And then we'll keep the party going. I've got the Tito's vodka helmet on the set. I'm wearing a shirt from the Rogue.
I like that.
And thank you.
Sharp shirt.
I didn't realize this is a great price point because, premium shirts are expensive these days. Some of them are $150. This is a knit golf shirt, whatever. And this is a cool story. And Luke Abney and the Rogue Men's Store have this shirt. It's $80-something. They're, wow. A lot of these premium shirts are $140, $180. Yeah. Well, I didn't realize this. Justin Bayer owns this company. It's called Collars and Company. And after trying to find the perfect polo to wear on Wall Street with jackets and sweaters, if you notice this collar stands up, unlike those that most golf shirts, they fold down. You try to wear a pullover, a quarter zip with it, or you got to throw on a sport coat to go to dinner. Well, after getting the fabric and collar he liked, his daughter filmed a video and put it on TikTok, and he sold $30,000 worth of shirts in a month. And then he went on Shark Tank, and Mark Cuban gave him $300,000 for a 10% interest and $700,000 credit line. And since then, Collars and Company, or Collars and Co., did $30 million in sales in 2024, and they're expected to double it in 2025. Well, when I told you earlier in the show I had to go by the Rogue Men's Store, and they just built their Peter Millar store inside the Rogue, he's got these new Collar and Co's shirts. They're amazing. You got to check them out. I love it. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. Mike Detillier next. Good morning. It's game week. Week 1. Let's go. College football. We are the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We got Thursday night football. But Friday night, you got Auburn at Baylor. Hugh Freeze can't lose that game. I think they're going to have a good year. I think they're loaded on the defensive line. They upgraded at QB. I think Jackson Arnold will be just fine with Freeze. And wide receiver-wise, for the first time in a long time, they're loaded. I like their schedule. I mean, so much of this is, who you pull, how you pull. That's what we're about to talk to with Mike Detillier. LSU athletic directors have not been it's great for us, big games week 1, but LSU ADs have not been doing LSU head football coaches any favors. I think you'd rather start off with Georgia State or Wofford and get your feet under you. But it gives us marquee games, and so we get all excited about it. But Auburn at Baylor is Friday night. And then, of course, the Tito's Vodka Bloody Mary game. Texas at Ohio State. Cannot wait. And LSU at Clemson is the steak and bourbon game that night on Saturday, which is going to be delicious. And we bring in Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. And this segment's brought to you by Sound and Communications, Video Walls, powered by soundcomav.com for your lobby, for your conference, for your school. Your next video wall, soundcomav.com. All right, Mike D, here we go. I've run into LSU fans. I mean, you're around them all the time, but we've got a big fan base up here too. And not as much confidence with the way everything's gone since 2020 game 1. How are you feeling? I mean, are you feeling confident that LSU goes into the other Death Valley Junior and wins this game, or do you like Clemson as you look at the matchup?
Do I feel confident about it? No. LSU has not won a season opener since Joe Burrow was quarterback. 2019. Just think of that. Has not won a season opener since the big man hit his final year. So it's a tough draw for LSU. It really is. Because of Clemson defensively, having those two guys up front, Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, they do have a new defensive coordinator in Tom Allen, which I think is an interesting twist here. They gave up a lot of big plays last year defensively, Clemson did. And they bring in Allen, who was at one time the head coach at Indiana, and then last year was the linebackers coach, defensive coordinator with Penn State. And so they brought him to kind of fix things up front, especially they got gashed in some games. And now you're going up against a team with 4 new starting offensive linemen. They are loaded at wide receiver. Hey, man, they got some talent there, and all those guys can fly, flat out fly. And Caden Durham, I think, is one hell of a back. But can they keep Nussmeier upright? In this game cannot be a situation where Nussmeier got to throw the football 45 times a game.
Okay.
They got to have some balance running the ball. And then next year they catch them again. And they catch them in Baton Rouge. So, man, it don't get any easier for them to open the season. But at least you won't have to play against Klubnik. So, if you're asking me to pick a winner here, I would go with Clemson. I think at home, with an experienced quarterback. Their defense they got a big chunk of it back from a year ago. I think they have 3 of their 5 starting offensive linemen back, their receivers back. They always got good running backs. At home, yeah, I got to go with Clemson here.
Mike D, if they lose on Saturday, and I expect a close game, I see where you're going. Slight edge to Clemson. Could go either way. You know the schedule just as well as I do. Game 3, they got Florida coming into town. I think this is Florida's best team in years. And if Lagway's healthy, which I think he is now, that kid can ball. And then at Ole Miss, game 5, I mean, I know Kelly's owed a fortune, but Mike D, you can't start off 2-3, but you really can't start off with 2 losses in your first 5 games, can you?
No, you can't, and that's going to be the challenge if you lose to Clemson. Though, I had this conversation with Tim Brando and Archie Manning, and Archie told me this in the summer, and he was like, Mike, there's going to be a scenario one year, and he said it will happen real soon. There'll be a 9-3 team finish the season with 3 losses. They win their conference in their conference championship game. They go into the offseason hot. They win it all. I think he's right. It's almost like a wild card team in the NFL that all of a sudden you get hot at a certain time and you build upon, you maybe had some close losses early, and then you run with it. And I think we in that era now, to be honest with you, Bo. I think we in that era where you could potentially see a 3-loss team be the national champ. And it's similar to the NFL, and because now college football and the NFL sort of mirror one each other so much. I really think that could potentially happen. I think LSU will be a much better team in October and November than they are in September because of their offensive line play.
Fair enough.
The one good thing that they have going for them is, they got a lot more talent in the secondary and along the defensive line than they've had at any time in the last 7 or 8 years at LSU. They're going to rotate 9 defensive linemen.
Wow.
They're going to probably start 8 to 9 transfer guys. Now, a couple years ago, you and I had this conversation because Brian Kelly came out in the press conference after the year and said, we're going to be real selective in name, image, likeness, and transfer portal, and we're just going to build this team off a high school team. He's delusional. That wasn't realistic. I said it then. I say it today. Now, he got used to the fact that you got to be able to use the transfer portal. You look offensively, he'll have 2 starting offensive linemen from the transfer portal. Nick Anderson and Barrion Brown comes in to help your receiving core. Bauer Sharp comes in to help your tight end position. On defense, he's got 4 guys along the defensive line that he went into the transfer portal after. His 2 starting safeties, transfer portal people. One of the starting cornerbacks, and, Mansour Delane, he's from Virginia Tech. He went knee deep into it. Finally, somebody got in his ear and said that it's not going to work. You got to go out and help yourself immediately in the transfer portal. So I think once all those guys get together and sort of play as a unit, man, you're not going to want to play LSU in October and November. They are going to be a much better team than they are early in the year. But as you brought out in, late August and into September, having to play Clemson, then having to play Florida. Now, they do catch Florida at home, which is a big difference. I don't think Ole Miss will be as good as they were a year ago. You lost a lot to the NFL and in a very experienced quarterback. And I think Simmons is a terrific athlete, and how quickly it will all come for him. And can they get that running game going again? But LSU might be one of those teams that you don't want to see on the schedule in October and November because everything starts to come together for them. But that early season schedule is not real good for the Tigers.
What's going on? All right. So, that's brutal. Week 1 at Clemson. Week 3, Florida at home. Not guaranteed. I mean, LSU should be favored, but still, Lagway, I think Napier's done a fabulous job. getting that roster up and going. And then at Ole Miss, week 5, as Mike D said, October, November, this team may be stout, but you may have already taken the hits that you can't take to overcome it. We'll see. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Yeah, one thing Brian Kelly did, as you know, Mike D, he hired Austin Thomas back. He took him away from Ole Miss. He was the general manager under Lane. Now he's a general manager for LSU. And I think that kicked their portal business into gear, and they landed a top 5 class, as you know. And heck, y'all just hired Kelvin Bolden from Ole Miss too. He played at Southern Miss, but let me tell you, he did a phenomenal job recruiting for Ole Miss.
They also brought in the chief recruiter for Ohio State, who grew up in a meat, Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
I don't see how you escape. I always tell him that because every once in a while, we'll sort of meet up different places. I said, man, how you got away from a meat, Louisiana, to go to Ohio State? He said, hey, you got to have a job somewhere. And he's been at Ohio State the last, I think, 7 or 8 years. He's been the guy to set up their recruiting and also transfer portal. He's done a pretty damn good job, hasn't he?
Yes.
Man, Ohio State's good, brother. That's all I can tell you. They got some talent there, and it's every year. And they recruit like an SEC team,
sure,
like an upper-level SEC team. There is nobody they don't feel as though they can go into a house and not land. They have a verbal commitment from the top safety or defensive back in the state of Louisiana. They have it already here in Bradford. From right in LSU's backyard in Baton Rouge.
He'll probably flip back to LSU.
Well, we'll see what happens there. But, man, they have always been involved heavily with top players from Louisiana, from Florida, from Texas, and a lot of that has to do with how they set up their recruiting. I think Brian was maybe a little bit late coming to the party on transfer portal, but he's got it straight now. And next year, if everything falls like they think it will, okay, not only will you catch Clemson, but unless the schedule starts to, look a little different, it's their year to catch Texas and Georgia. Along with Alabama. Okay? So you're going to have Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Georgia.
Good grief.
Unless there's a tweak in the schedule. But remember, next year is when those schedules start to, and you face a little different opponents when it rotates. And LSU fans ain't going to be too happy. This is why I think they really went all in. They knew that this was an important year. You got a star quarterback. You do have some pieces in place that can get you a long way. But how favorable the schedule is, it's not favorable for them early. And the fact that the good part about next year is a lot of those games will be at home. But, man, you're up against really, really tough opponents there. So I understand what Kelly did. I wish he'd have maybe done it a year earlier to try to combat what's happening. And done similar to what Lane Kiffin did at Ole Miss, to be a much more aggressive guy in the transfer portal, but it just didn't happen with it. But they're a very good football team, and I've said this before in the regular season, Clemson will not face a tougher opponent in the regular season than LSU. And LSU's toughest opponent, and you can make some debate on this now, if it's Alabama or Clemson, but it may well be Clemson. I think Clemson's got a shot to play for the national championship.
Hey, Dabo's gone another route, as you know. They've spent all their money on retaining their players, which Notre Dame has to. And now they've gotten old, and they've done it the last couple years. And so Like you said, they've got some dudes on defense, and Cade's been playing forever. So we'll see how that looks.
Put it to you this way, Bo. Peter Woods is the highest graded non-quarterback I have on my list for the 2026 NFL draft. That's who LSU's got to face week 1. Everybody talks about T.J. Parker, and I'm not trying to take anything away from T.J. I think he's a really good player and probably a top 12, 14 pick. Peter Woods is the highest rated non-quarterback on that list. He's that dominant. And they finally figured out he's not a defensive end. Put him at defensive tackle. That's where he can make the most havoc. And how they got him away from Alabama, and somebody have to tell me that story. Because I know Coach Saban and the Alabama staff, he was the priority guy, and they didn't get him.
Damn. I expect Bama. So Bama's my national champ. I'm expecting now that Ryan Grubb is back with Kalen DeBoer. I think Ty Simpson's going to be kind of like Nussmeier. He stuck around, grew up, didn't transfer. Props to him. And I think Bama is the team to beat in the SEC and in the country.
They loaded on the offensive, defensive line. Most talent and depth at the secondary in a long time. Great receiving core. But this is what I know about quarterbacks. You're going to be put in tight games.
Yeah. And
you're going to have to make plays. And there's nothing like experience. Drew Brees is a regular with us on WWL, and he talks about it college, pro level. People don't get it's all about experience in these close games and being able to make a play. And sometimes you may have a quarterback that's not as talented as the other guy, but the other guy makes plays, he stays away from the mistakes, and you end up winning. Anybody that say, I know how good Ty Simpson is, really, we really don't know about Ty.
True.
That's why I didn't pick him to be a national champ team, because I don't know how good Ty is. And you're going to have to win some very close games, and you're going to be the catalyst to those wins, playing the quarterback position. I couldn't tell you if Ty can do it or not. Now, some people will swear they know. How? He's rarely played at Alabama. Rarely has he been on the field. Listen, I think the world of Isaiah Simmons at Ole Miss too. But how much have we seen him play? Deuce McAllister tell me, Mike, if I was his family, I'd have him playing baseball. And he did start playing baseball at Ole Miss. Man, he's got a rifle on him. But his decision-making spots, can he win those close games?
That's a great point.
That you don't know. As good as Nussmeier was last year, he had games where he was all off in the fourth quarter. And he talked about it, lack of experience. I was maybe trying to do too much. That's the nature of the position. You were trying to dig your team out. And I'll be honest with you, Arch Manning might have to fight that himself. Arch is going to be in the same spot.
True.
He hasn't had a ton of experience at the collegiate level as a starter. And sometimes he's going to learn. His grandpa's been telling him this. Sometimes an incomplete pass is the best thing.
No doubt.
You live to play another day.
No doubt. Tough. Yeah. Yes. Mike Detillier talking QB1s on the Out of Bounds show and the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. All right, let's go to that game. Texas at Ohio State. 2 new QBs, basically. Okay, very talented, 5 stars. Teams that recruit out of this world, out of their minds. Ohio State lost their OC in D.C. Does Texas go in and beat Ohio State in Columbus, or are you going with the Buckeyes, Mike D?
No, I'm going to go with Texas here. I think it's a super tight game. I didn't know this. I didn't realize this until Manning Passing Academy, and I'm sitting down with Arch, and he tells me, we're talking about offensive line play, and he said, we got 4 new starters on this team, offensive line, and a new tight end. And you dig it up, and he's right. They're going through transition too up front. Now, some of their offensive linemen did see action last year of those guys that are projected starters. But, man, you look at Ohio State. You lost 14 guys to the NFL draft and 3 more undrafted free agents. 17 guys hit the NFL. And they got some people, one of them, Tim Brando, that picks them to go back-to-back champs. And I told Timmy, hey, Tim, you got to look at that. He was like, no, Mike, you got to look at it a little different way. And he said, man, I get you. That's a lot that left and a lot of experienced talent. They did have a veteran quarterback and who had started a lot of games at Kansas State, and he came in and took over. But in this case, I think Texas will be a little bit better and on the road. And, again, man, it's tough to replace experience in those tight games. And Arch hasn't played a ton, but he's played more than Ohio State quarterback has.
Right, yeah.
That's the way I look at it. And I think this will be a sort of a tight game. I think both defenses will play big, but, man, you talk about one for early on, man, Ohio State, Texas. But I think Texas goes to Ohio and ends up pulling off the upset. I think it'll be a really, really tight game. I don't feel that way about Alabama, Florida State. I think Alabama wins and wins big over Florida State. They have 50 new players on the roster, Florida State. 50. It goes to show how the world turned dramatically. And, man, Alabama's going to be difficult. Even with Ty not having a ton of experience there, they're going to win up front. Alabama's going to win up front. And just throw the ball out. Let Ryan Williams go get it. And I'm interested to see how Texas tries to slow down Jeremiah Smith, who I think he's the best freshman receiver I've seen since Julio Jones.
Damn.
That was a different world back then with Julio and Alabama. But, man, Jeremiah, it's like this guy should be playing in a pros. It should be illegal for him to be out on the field against college guys. How does Texas do it? Do they bracket him? You can't double cover him all game long because they got some talent at wide receiver. They can string you out. But that'll be the interesting call. And can the young quarterback get the football to Jeremiah?
Boom. We'll leave it there. Mike D, enjoy week 1. We'll talk next week.
Thanks a lot, Bo.
He's the best. At Mike Detillier on Twitter. Thanks for listening to the show today. And enjoy lunch today at Burgers Blues Barbecue. B3, baby, in Madison. B3 in Dogwood, Flowood. And B3 in Brandon. Burgers Blues Barbecue. Burgers Blues Barbecue. Blue plates and smash burgers. See you tomorrow.